Ready to escape into a world of enchanting pixels? What is up, my peeps? And today we're going to be reading 101 Dalmatians. Pongo was a handsome white Dalmatian with black spots. He owned Roger Radcliffe, a nice young bachelor musician who was gentle, obedient, and unusually intelligent. In fact, Pongo thought at times he was almost canine. Roger understood the barks for out, please, in, please, where's my dinner, and let's go for a walk. Pretty good for a human. They lived in a nice little house near Regent's Park in London, but it had become very lonely for the both of them. To Pongo, it was plain to see that his bachelor pet needed someone. He was too wrapped up in his work, writing songs all day and half into the night. Songs about romance, of all things, a subject he knew nothing about. So Pongo took matters into his own hands, or paws in this case, and arranged a meeting in the park one day with Anita, I think that's how you say that, a pretty lady who was owned by Perdita, I don't know how to pronounce that, a good-looking female Dalmatian. There's nothing like a walk in the park in early spring at dusk when the lights are just blinking all over London to promote romance. In a few short weeks, there was a double wedding for Pongo and Pierda, I think it's how you say that, and Roger and Etna. And the dogs settled down to a life of pleasant domesticacy with their happy pets. The months passed peacefully, and in autumn, Pongo and Perdita became the proud parents of their first litter of puppies, 15 beautiful little Dalmatians. When Roger saw the new puppies in the kitchen where Nanny Cook was getting them settled, he was flabbergasted. 15 puppies, he exclaimed. Why, Pongo boy, that's marvelous, you old rascal. Pongo held his head high, and there was a new light in his intelligent, dark eyes. Yeah. Just then the doorbell rang, and Nanny Cook opened it for Cruella DeVille, Anita's old schoolmate. No one liked her. She was mean and selfish, but Anita wanted to be polite to her. Cruella blew smoke in Anita's face and demanded, "Where are they?" "Who, Cruella?" Anita asked. "The puppies. The puppies," Cruella said in a loud, rude voice. Anita picked up one of the tiny puppies. "I'll take them all, dear," said Cruella. "Just name your price." Cruella had a passion for fur coats, and she had her heart set on owning a white one with black spots. "I worship furs. I live for furs. Why, I even sleep between ermine sheets. That's why I must have these Dalmatians." That's not creepy at all, by the way. But Roger, who had just come into the room, said firmly, "We aren't selling the puppies, and that's final." Pongo stood by, nodding his head. "Not even one," Roger added. "No, no, and no again." "You'll be sorry," Cruella shouted. I'll get even with all of you. Fools, idiots." And she slammed the door behind her with a crash that broke the glass. Anita embraced Roger. "Oh, darling, you were magnificent," she said. Roger puffed on his pipe. "That's a strange name, DeVille. If you put both parts together, it spells devil. Maybe that's why she's so mean. Honestly, I never thought of that, actually." Anyway, Pongo ran to the pantry to tell Perdita the good news. "My old pet Roger, he told her off, Purdy. She's gone for good." One evening, about 6 weeks later, Pongo and Perdita took Roger and Anita for their customary evening walk in the park. The puppies were at home, watching TV before bedtime. When the back doorbell rang, most unexpectedly, when Nanny Cook answered it, there stood a tall, skinny man with a poker and a short, fat man with a club. We're from the gas company," said the short one. His tall partner pushed past him into the kitchen. While Nanny Cook protested, the two thugs locked her in the cellar, scooped up 15 puppies, and stuffed them into a large burlap bag. They carried the bag to a van waiting outside, and off they sped. Half an hour later, Pongo and Perdita brought Roger and Anita back and heard Nanny Cook banging on the cellar door. After they freed her, they all searched the house to see what silver or valuables had been stolen. Everything was in its proper place, except the puppies. One of the 15 spotted Dalmatians, of the 15 spotted Dalmatians, there wasn't a trace. Those scoundrels, they stole the puppies, wailed Nanny Cook. Roger was very good. He was on the phone with the police to Scotland Yard, to the newspapers to place ads and offer reward for return, no questions asked. The next day, Cruella DeVille telephoned. "Oh, Anita," she crooned. "What a dreadful thing. I just saw the papers. Have the police been any help?" But before Anita could answer politely, Roger grabbed the phone. "Where are they, Cruella?" he demanded. "Idiot!" Cruella screamed, but Pongo, standing near the phone, nodded his head in agreement with Roger. He, too, thought Cruella was the number one suspect, although there was no proof so far. That evening, when Perdita slept next to him, exhausted by grief, Pongo chewed on the wicker of his basket, as Roger might thoughtfully smoke his pipe. In spite of his playful, charming ways, Pongo happened to possess one of the keenest brains in the dogdom. Nice pun on the word kingdom there. And he used it now. He devised a plan. Next day, the police and Scotland Yard had nothing to report. Pongo took Perdita into his confidence. "Purdy," he said, "I'm afraid it's all up to us dogs. We must use the twilight bark. That is dogs' way of keeping in touch with other canines, however distant, of passing on important news or just plain gossip." It was a few weeks before Christmas, and twilight came early. Pongo and Perdita made their wish clear to take Anita and Roger for a walk just before dusk. With the Radcliffes firmly attached to their leashes, the two Dalmatians eagerly led the way to Regent's Park. At the top of a little hill, Pongo and Perdita stood side by side. They barked to the south, north, east, and west, and from the distance, answering barks could be heard. "Purdy, we're in luck. It's the Great Dane at Hampstead. He has a network of friends throughout the country," Pongo reported. After one especially clear bark, the all-dog alert was on its way, with news of the stolen puppies being relayed all across England. Every dog who heard it would turn detective, and their answers could be expected the following evening. From the Great Dane to a terrier, to a Scottie, to an Afghan puppy, to a barge dog of no discernible bloodlines but much intelligence, to a goose on the river, to a horse in a barn in Suffolk, to the barnyard cat named Tibbs, to a shaggy old dog with the habit of command called Colonel. The chain of dogs relate the message. 15 spotted puppies, dognap from London. "Colonel, sir," said Tibbs the cat, 2 nights past when I was prowling about, I thought I heard puppies barking over at Hell Hall." That's a fitting name. The old abandoned DeVille place, by Jove," exclaimed the Colonel. "There's smoke coming from the chimney, and where there's smoke, there's fire. We better see what's up." Under cover of darkness, the Colonel and Tibbs strolled up to the old house. Tibbs crawled through an open window and found himself in a room full of little Dalmatians. "Are you the 15 stolen puppies?" he asked. "No, we're bought and paid for," one of the puppies answered. "All 84 of us. There's another bunch of little ones in the other room. They're watching TV with the Baddun brothers." "Watch out for the Badduns," warned one of the pups. "They're mean." Tibbs slipped quietly into the next room. There he saw a tall, thin man and a short, fat one, both with disagreeable faces. Tibbs was able to count 15 black and white spotted puppies scattered about the room. "The kidnapped Dalmatians!" He flashed the good news to the Colonel through the open window. Back through the chain of dogs, it traveled to the Great Dane in Hampstead. The next evening in Regent's Park, Pongo and Perdita heard the message, and late that night they started their journey to Suffolk to rescue their children. It took them 2 nights of steady running, mile after snowy mile, since they dared not show themselves in daylight. Dogs along the way who'd been alerted by the twilight bark gave them food, shelter, directions, and news of the puppies. At last, on a cold, frosty night, Pongo and Perdita found the Colonel, up to his neck in a snowdrift, keeping watch at the gates of Hell Hall. They were just in time. The Badduns had received orders from Cruella to kill all 99 Dalmatians that very night, and the brothers were trying to capture the frightened puppies. They had chased them from room to room in the dark old house, but the clever cat Tibbs had led the puppies to safety every time, while leading the Baduns on a merry chase. Now at last, the brothers had the whole kit and caboodle cornered in the red room. Escape was no longer possible. But at the very instant that one of the Baduns was saying, "Now we got 'em," two snarling furries crashed through the window and hurled themselves at the men. Perdita fastened her jaws on the club that was against her darlings. Pongo went after one of the Baduns, who yelled, "I'll knock the spots off of you mongrel." The 99 puppies set up a racket, but Tibbs led them to the open window in a safe and orderly retreat to the old barn. The puppies and their parents had a happy reunion while the colonel stood guard outside, prepared to hold the Baduns at bay. Are all 15 of you here?" asked Pongo. "Twice as many," said one of the puppies. "There's 99 of us now," and they told how Cruella had bought up all the Dalmatians she could find because she wanted to make coats of them. "They were going to pop us off and skin us," said one of the pups. "Dog skin coats is what she was after." Perdita and Pongo were shocked, and they talked together softly. Then Pongo announced, "We'll take you home with us. Our pets would never turn you out." The colonel called out, "Better be off. Here they come." So Pongo, Perdita, and all of the little Dalmatians, after thanking their new friends, set off across the snow-covered fields for the long trip home. Unfortunately, 101 dogs leave a lot of tracks in the snow, 404 paw prints to be exact, and Cruella, who had driven up from London expecting to collect her dog skins, and the Baduns in her van would have very little trouble following Pongo and Perdita and their charges. Halfway to London, a jet-black Labrador ran out of his village with good news for Pongo. There was a truck leaving for London with room for all of them. "A ride home, everyone," barked Pongo. "Did you hear that?" Immediately, the cold and tired puppies were cheered. The Labrador led them to a warm blacksmith shop to wait until the truck was ready to leave. Just then, they heard the roar of a motor, and Cruella de Vil's red car drove slowly past, trailed by the Badun's van. They were following the dog's tracks and stopped near the blacksmith shop. "Idiots!" Cruella screamed. "They've got to be here somewhere. Find them!" "Oh, Pongo," said Perdita, "what shall we do?" But one of their puppies accidentally found the answer. He fell into the blacksmith's ashes and in an instant became completely black. "Look," said Pongo, "he's a Labrador. Let's all do the same. Cruella's looking for Dalmatians." So all the dogs rolled in the ashes, and one by one, sooty black Labradors marched out to the truck, right past Cruella's car and the Badun's van. "I've always wanted to get good and dirty," giggled one of the pups. But just as the last of the pups were being helped into the truck by Pongo, some melting snow from the roof dropped onto it, washing off the soot and showing the white fur of black spots. "There they go!" screamed Cruella. "My dogs! My coats!" "After the little mongrels!" she yelled to the Baduns. I hope I'm saying that right. But the truck had started on its way to London with all the dogs safely inside. Cruella's red car sped after it, with snow flying from its wheels. The Baduns were right behind her. Cruella tried to ram the truck, but the driver yelled, "Crazy woman driver," and raced his truck across a narrow bridge well ahead of her. Cruella's car skidded wildly. The Badun's van crashed into it, and both flipped over into a ditch. The last cheering Dalmatians had heard of Cruella, and the last the cheering Dalmatians heard of Cruella was her furious voice floating up from the ditch, addressing the Baduns. "You idiots! You fools! You imbeciles!" When the truck reached London, the Dalmatians headed straight for the house near Regent's Park. Nanny Cook opened the door to see what all the barking was about, and she was nearly knocked over by a wave of happy black dogs. Roger said, "Why, they're Labradors," but Anita recognized Perdita, then Pongo, and then some of the pups. They cleaned them up as best they could and counted them as best they could. 101, Roger exclaimed. "Pongo, you old rascal. We'll have to buy a bigger place in the country," said Anita. "We'll have a plantation," Roger hummed. Then he sat down on the piano and sang. "We'll have a plantation, a Dalmatian plantation, where our population can roam," and they all joined in singing Roger's newest, jolliest song. The end. Here's some history about the book and movie. You can pause the video to read. And the next, how fitting. The next story stop will be Lady and the Tramp. Makes sense to put Lady and the Tramp after 101 Dalmatians, considering they both use dog characters. So with that out of the way, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Talk to y'all later.